Mr. Voight, is it good morning or good afternoon right now?
Dude, Darren, it's 11 o'clock here in the morning.
Got it. So, I mean, you are from Yonkers, so there is that East Coast in you, but good morning. How is your day going aside from answering the same questions over and over and over again?
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you, Darren. That's the thing. I'm excited.
Charming as always. Well, thank you. Congratulations on Shadowland. The last time I had the pleasure of speaking with you, it was to promote The Painter, which was another great dramatic turn for you. And
Uh,
you're keeping up this streak of playing dignified human beings. When did you kind of realize, hey, I'm only going to do dignified characters, no more Midnight Cowboy kind of stuff for me?
well, it's not quite true. I mean, to do those other characters, Darren, it's just what I'm offered, to try to fulfill the roles that I'm offered.
Sure.
And I certainly Midnight Cowboy is a very strong character part, of course, and and I did it very well,
Yeah.
and therefore people occasionally look to me for that, like Runaway Train, for instance. But also, just the way I look today, they'll they'll see me in that guise as well, and so I'm going to get a little bit of both, I suppose.
Right. Now
I
playing
do like the stretches. I do like to have the challenge of the stretches, when I have to change myself physically and do a lot of other things, but like Anaconda or something like that. But
sure.
I'm going to get stuff that fits the way I look.
Well, how much uh, prep and research is needed for a role like this when you're playing a former US president?
Well, I've been in the political realm a little bit, so I
Yeah,
know
just a little bit.
I've been watching it pretty close.
Yeah,
So I feel I have a little bit of that a natural um, or gravitas or whatever it is. I have a little of that, so I don't have to work for it. Uh, I have to do. I mean, this role was a pretty interesting role, and I must say that the my my coworkers on this piece, uh, Martin, Chokash, and uh,
Rona.
Gal,
Yeah,
Rona Mitra, they were terrific. They were just terrific, and I I mostly found myself in scenes with people I really thought were terrific, and that was what made the character, I think. Uh,
when you get cast in a role like this, do you get any perks where they go, "Hey, come for a White House tour. Hey, meet with these great political figures"? Anything like that?
no, I didn't. I didn't have that, but I've been in that. I've filmed this in Bulgaria, by the way, and so I was pretty far away from that ability to go down the street and do that. But uh, but I had been there before. I've been to the White House several times, and I've seen the way things operate and all of that. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty familiar with the presidents. I thought I was good casting for it. Initially I said, "Oh yeah, this feels right."
Yeah,
And I,
take this compliment. There's no strings attached to it. You seem like a great public speaker who could make bad news sound like a positive thing, like a president would. That seems to come very natural for you.
oh, that's great. That's great, Darren. You're fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a. I think to stay on the positive side is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Oh,
Uh,
of
but you have,
course.
yeah, I think if you have, I think that is true that the president is going to be privy to all the bad news of the day. And he has to be able to put on a uh, somehow he has to reach people in this country to give them hope continuously and not to bring them down. So I think that's part of the job.
Right.
Uh, I have a movie coming out, Reagan,
Yes.
with Dennis and Dennis Quaid, and that Reagan was particularly good at that. Uh, I think my personal opinion is Donald Trump's good at that too. He always stays positive.
Well,
So
you to rudely interrupt you right here. You mentioned Reagan before I could. When somebody goes on IMDb, the Reagan stuff is already populating your IMDb pro page and all that kind of stuff. When did you do the work on Reagan in comparison to Shadowland? Because it's kind of ironic, two American president-oriented movies back to
yeah,
back.
yeah. Well, I didn't play the president in Reagan. Dennis Quaid did, and he did it quite nicely too, I must
Mhm.
say. I play one of the characters you brought up. I play a 90-year-old ex-Russian spy, KGB spy, and so we'll see how I did with that.
Now, the follow-up to that is, did you have to do any special prep for that? Because you were not a spy. As far as I know, you're not from Russia. So that's on a couple of levels,
Yeah,
really acting.
yeah. Well, it's I'm very interested in Russia. Because as an actor, I suppose, actors, we all have a connection to Russia through Stanislavski,
Hmm.
and and we all know Chekhov's work, and so we love the Moscow Arts Theater and all of that, we're because we were connected through our teachers, and I think the teachers today carry on that too. The so-called method came from Stanislavski trying to do Chekhov's work. He had to make this stuff, which was so realistic, he had to make that come to life. And the stentorian kind of popular posing that the actors did at that time didn't couldn't approach that work. So
Right.
he had to find ways to make this stuff real. And in that process, he gave us the basic techniques for acting that we know today. So I have a great affection for the Russian culture artistically. So anyway, I knew a little bit about that, and I've been very alert to what happened uh, under the Soviet system to Russia, real damage that it did to the people, and then Solzhenitsyn kind of gave us the picture of what it was like, and then Reagan really was responsible for overcoming that for the Russian people.
So a question that's another compliment, that's the warning, uh, that has nothing to do with how great
Gary.
Shadowland is, as somebody who's been highly prominent for over 50 years, starring in major projects for over 50 years, etc. Do you like your early work, or do you watch it back going, man, I should have done that and that different?
Well, I don't have much of that thought. I think I did pretty well. Occasionally, I've done movies that I didn't think measured up, but the ones that I did that I'm most known for, I'm very proud of, and I know where they came from. I know I worked with wonderful directors, and all the teams of these pictures were part of the making of them. So when I look back, I did pretty well. Yeah,
Well,
I'm always looking to do, well with the project that I have in front of me. These recent pictures I've done for Paramount Plus, they're interesting. They're challenging because we do them on a quite tough budget. No, well, I shouldn't say budget, but just we shoot them as a certain amount of time, so we have to be all prepared when we go to try to do these things. But I've had wonderful actors to work with here, and the pictures have turned out quite nicely, I think.
I think it's fascinating that this film was done in Bulgaria because the average person watching it would not be able to discern where it happened. And
Yeah,
these days, very few films seem to be made in New York and Los Angeles. Like when you see a Las Vegas set, it might be in New Mexico, that kind of a thing. When did you start to notice that most of your work was not done in New York and Los Angeles?
Well, it's an interesting thing that I've seen so much. I'm being an older fellow. I've seen the film business and go through so many changes. After all, I was raised on the films of the Golden Age. I was born in 1938,
Hmm.
so so I saw the films of the 40s and 30s
Hmm.
after I was directed to see those films, and those were great films. My gosh, it was a tremendous industry when I was born, and that was responsible to these moguls that came from Europe.
Yeah.
Uh, these fellows had a passion for it, and they were able to build this business from scratch, and in many ways we suffer from the loss of those personalities because they loved film and they all knew the basics of film. Uh, the fellows who are in the studios today or running the studios today probably came from legal backgrounds in different other places.
Yeah.
And then they didn't come from this passion for film. Anyway, but there are still those characters that come forth that do have that love of the filmmaking process. And it's changed over the years. I've seen it go from one thing to another. I've seen it, I saw it when it turned to color.
Right.
I mean, way back then, it's CinemaScope and all of this other stuff. And then the extraordinary thing that we've witnessed more recently, which was this computer graphics, which made
Hmm.
it possible to do Lord of the Rings, which was never able to be done because of the scope of the piece. And at a certain point in my early filmmaking, we started filming all over the country. Like I filmed Deliverance all in Georgia and North Carolina. So we went to the places that we didn't do this on the back lot, and
True.
that was a big change. So then people all over the world started to make films too. That started very early. That started in the 50s. We became aware of a lot of different people making films and doing them quite well too. The Italian people, Kurosawa in Japan, and all of these great films coming from all over the world. Sajid Ray in India, and they were very influential to all of us here. They
Sure.
they 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 were in some way they became the major influence. It was no longer the moguls telling us. It was now people from all over the world showing us and encouraging us, and it was great. And
Right.
now we're today with so many things have happened. Of course, we have films studios in our homes to watch our films. Things
Such as Shadowland.
such as Shadowland, yeah.
Well,
So
I've got to rudely interrupt you one more time, and one last question before I let you go. I'm
yeah,
intrigued by this. So, forever you're associated with the song "Everybody's Talking," which Harry Nilsson made a hit because of that
yeah,
Academy Award nominated film. Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
get to be among the Hollywood vampires, which was included Harry and Ringo Starr and Alice Cooper and all that?
No, I didn't even know that term, but I did meet Harry, and I spent some time with Ringo actually, who I liked very much. Uh, and uh, uh, and the interesting thing about that particular song,
Hmm.
John Schlesinger was treating me very carefully when we made Midnight Cowboy because I was totally new, to the film world. Although I had worked very hard at different things and had some success in stage off Broadway and stuff, but he wanted to keep me away from seeing any of the work because he thought maybe I'd get self-conscious or whatever it was, and uh, and at the end of the film, when we finished everything, uh, he said to me, "John, would you like to come by my hotel room and listen to something. I'd like to check this thing with you. I found a lovely piece. I'd like to see what you think. All of a sudden, I was on the inside,
Yeah.
after I'd finished the film. And that was a big compliment to me. And so, John, I sure would, And so I go up there, and he has this Nilsson Schmielsen album,
Yeah.
right? And he takes it out and it's on a vinyl thing, right? And he plays it for me, and he plays Everybody's Talking. And I had, you have you get chills up your arm,
Yeah.
I had that when I heard, oh wow, it was so perfect because the character was so original and strange, this strange world that he was in all the time. And he was a lonely person who was living a kind of fantasy, he wasn't in the real world. And this was so perfect for it. And I said, John, that's amazing. This is, a blessing that we listening to this kind of thing. This is great for the film. And he said, oh, John, I'm so very glad you like it. And I said, we're thinking of using it in the film. I said, well, I don't know how you can get anything better than that. But anyway, they went because they wanted to, that was made for something else. It wasn't made for the film, you see. So according to the rules, you couldn't get an Academy Award nomination unless it was made for the film. You see, it had no prior existence.
Right.
And so if you chose that piece, you couldn't go for an Academy Award for the music. Well, I felt that was kind of sad but I still couldn't figure out how we make it better. But he went after a few things, and actually Bob Dylan wrote Lay Lady Lay for our film. And finally they came back to the Nilsson version, thank God, of that. I think Neil, can't remember who wrote the song.
Fred Wesley.
Was that?
Fred Wesley did.
I think it was Neil. Check it out, Darren.
Yeah.
See who wrote this song. Fred Neil or something like that. I can't remember his first name, maybe. But anyway, we got the song, and it certainly it opens the film, and it's perfect. Yeah.
Thank you for the many decades of great art. Looking forward to the Reagan film and everything to come from you, John. Thank you so much.
Great, Darren. God bless.
Paltrocast.
Nathan, Sean, Catherine, pleasure to be speaking with you all. I'll throw the first one at Nathan. Now, if I've done my research correctly, and there's no guarantee that I have,
Okay.
did police boot camp between seasons 1 and 2. Were any of your castmates along for that ride, or is it just you at that academy?
Yeah, no, I mean, so we for the first season, we spent a lot of time in the police training academy, which is called Garnival, which is in Northern Ireland. But then, yeah, you're exactly right. There was a lot of time spent in like a boot camp scenario, with real cops. They showed us basically how to carry yourself, the body language and the things that you should be looking at if you're in like one of those high adrenaline situations. And I mean, just one thing that I took from I'll not forget was the fact that, say maybe your colleague, your partner or something's having a chat with the bad guy. You need to be looking at their body language, not at their eyes, not at their face. You need to be watching where their hands are. Are they going to be reaching for something? Are they going to be, yeah, exactly like that.
I put my hands down, yeah.
But yeah, all those little things like that, that's what helped, make the character full and truthful.
Got it. Now, Sean, how much training, how much consideration was needed for you? Because, hey, you've got a lot of credits. You've been working steadily for 20 or so years. And some people are going to go, I'm going to go through the boot camp thing, and now I'm going to watch every episode of NYPD Blue. And then other people go, a good script is a script. I'll just do it that way.
Oh, do you know what? I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, a good script is the absolute foundation for anything. It all starts with the writing. So that was a given on this. It was just phenomenal writing. But also, yeah, you have to, there's a sense of responsibility, or I enjoy that part of the job. I love being able to delve into different worlds, and I've had the privilege of doing that on so many different occasions. So for me, you know, and you get to speak to people. So we were able to go, you know, visit a police station and go on a ride along and speak to these officers. And also they're really candid about their job. You know, they're very open, and you're very privileged in that respect, that you are able to listen to them and hear stuff that they might not share in a social situation, you know, around a table, you know, if they're chatting to people or whatever. So yeah, I take that quite seriously, especially in this profession. My dad was a police officer, so I felt that there was a level of responsibility to portray that world in a really authentic way.
Interesting. Throwing it to you, Catherine, right here. Your projects that you work on have little to do with one another in terms of the genres and the themes and all that. So, for example, Vikings, just a little different from Blue Lights, a little different from The Dig and all that. For you, was there a lot of prep needed for this series?
Absolutely. With Blue Lights, it's been the biggest role that I've had, and I'd done drama school before Blue Lights for 3 years, and then 6 months when I graduated, I landed Blue Lights. But with the training that I got from drama school, I was able to take a toolkit and to really to work on it. And I mean, you definitely learn on the job. That's one thing for certain. And not even in terms of an acting perspective, but definitely even the technicalities around screen.
Yeah. So another distinct thing about your series, besides being critically acclaimed, it's already known that it's coming back for series 3 and 4. Nathan, are the stakes higher that you now have to go to 2 boot camps before season 3?
Yeah, I don't know how many more boot camps I can do, to be honest with you, after that first one. But oh, no, listen, it's an amazing problem to have. You know, the thought that, you know, at the very least we could be only halfway through this Blue Lights sort of endeavor it's amazing. And I think as well, you know, it's because we've been given 2 seasons, you know, which is sort of unheard of to be greenlit for 2 at one time. Yeah. It gives us longevity, you know. It makes us we can plan a little bit more over that long time, that long time period, and hopefully make those arcs for these characters even wider and more interesting for the audience.
Right. So excitement for everybody else. Season 3 or 4, not nerves, I would have to assume.
Well, it's daunting as well, because with such amazing writing comes, you know, they can go anywhere with these characters, which is terrifying at the same time, but also an absolute gift as an actor.
Yeah.
But it's great to have the prospect of being able to sit with these characters for another 2 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, because you get to play with them a little bit more. You get to be able to throw stuff away a bit more and let it breathe. And also it genuinely is a very happy band of crew and actors. We really do get on, and so to be able to spend more time with them is great. I mean, imagine if you'd been greenlit for 3 and 4 and you really didn't like each other. That would be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to hugely generalize before I let you all go. I find the more serious the show matter, the happier and the more everyone jokes the second that they say cut, and the more likely that everyone has a group thread where they're talking and sending memes when they're off season.
Yeah, that would be us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you can confirm that there are Blue Lights group threads still going.
We have, Blue Lights WhatsApp chats.
Yeah,
definitely.
And some Blue Light memes as well, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, bottom line is congrats to you all on the further pickups. Congrats on this new season. Looking forward to what's to come from everybody soon.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Paltrocast. Was it a difficult season to make? Because let's face it, there's a lot going on between top tier talent, great storylines that are merging the future with fantasy, etc.
Yes. No, it was
Difficult.
tough. No, we were aiming high in regards to look of picture, in the sense of aiming for a quality, a feature quality level of look of picture, but also I'd say sort of a depth of storytelling that's also that you would come to expect from not only like an Apple TV Plus series, but just from the streaming world where we really get to. I love the fact that it used to be sort of TV and features, and now we have this sort of limited series where we get to look like a movie, but take more time. So we get to explore characters more, explore more story, go to expand the world. So yeah, huge challenge, but everybody was on board for it. It's great.
Right now, if you can take a compliment here, can you, or you're done for the day?
No, that's fine. That never gets old, right?
Well, decades now, you've been working with some of the top properties within animation through obviously this work here with Apple, but also Disney and all that. But your earlier credits, Tales from the Dark Side, is one of the first thing that shows. Did you initially slate to be a horror person before animation kicked off for you?
Oh, you win deep dive in the day. There's a longer story about that. I could say some other time, but I wrote that when I was 16. And ultimately, sold it to that was a George Romero show. But if you'll notice, no, my what I've always loved animation. I've always wanted to be in animation. I love bringing things to life that aren't alive and instilling emotion in things that don't necessarily have emotion. So you'll notice in that episode, that's what it's about. It's about someone who ultimately ends up bringing things alive, or something comes alive in that show that wasn't intended to be alive. And it was hard for them to do because they didn't have the biggest budget. But so it wasn't so much about the horror as much about is bringing things to life that aren't alive.
And these days, it's hard to say, what are you, a showrunner? Are you an executive producer, voiceover talent? There's not a lot of showrunners who are also voiceover talent. Was it your goal to have 8 jobs like you do now?
It's mostly the desire to follow through. When you write something, it's hard to let go and let someone else finish it, I'll say. So it's really, it's the joy of bringing a team together and helping as a team realizing something from start to finish. I really want to finish something. So that's mostly what it's about. Whether it's executive producer or showrunner, I think showrunner tends to be the sort of TV title. But it's mostly about getting a whole team of people, willing, and in this case, years and years and years for animation to be made, right? To keep that sort of enthusiasm for the project from beginning to end.
My last question for you has nothing to do with how much of a genius you are or how great this show is, because you just keep saying those compliments over and over and over again, and then Google picks it up. It said you worked on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for a long while, and that had a theme song by They Might Be Giants.
Yes.
You've been in the music department on some of the shows that you've worked on. Did you have anything to do with TMBG's relationship with Disney?
Well, not with Disney, but I worked with them on that show. Yeah, I created Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And initially, those guys came on to write the theme song, and we had a phone conversation about they're like, what does Mickey say? And I go, well, he says like hot dog and things like that. And so that was the evolution of that.
Paltrocast.